Hello, everyone. Welcome to Notes to My Legal Self, a place where we explore anything that could be interesting and of consequence to in-house lawyers. That could be career, that could be actual practical guidance about how to draft contracts or anything else, or it could be any hobbies that you may have, because we know for sure that in-house lawyers are humans first, and they have interest in all of the above and much, much more. Today, I have a very special guest. We're going to talk about AI. And she's a fantastic guest to talk about it because she has plenty of experiences and has intentionally educated herself about the area. And I would love her to share her experiences with you. Let's begin the show. Jordan, welcome to Now See My Legal Self. Please introduce yourself.
I'm leading legal operations. I'm with legal operations for my living for the last 8 years. Extremely excited to be. I feel like I'm very beginning of the bursting of legal operations. And that makes me excited. And we will talk about this and how AI embedded and all of that. I have a background of psychology, which is important for soft skills, and figure out how do you negotiate and how you deal in a different culture scenes, especially when you're working for the corporate, right? It's not necessarily a legal department placed in US. It can be, Asia, Europe, different flavors of Europe. And my second degree is MBA, which is really me understanding of finance, how the business runs. And my last dive was into MIT program about how businesses and corporates should implement AI and what is the best implication that we can choose.
I love it. So, Jordan, today you're at Vonage, right? And you're leading which part of the legal operations?
Absolutely right. Absolutely right. I'm leading legal operations for Vonage. Again, this is what I'm doing for a living. So please consider that everything that I'm saying is it's not just, from some fancy book that I've read. This is really what I do. This is really what I do for the last 8 years. So most of the things I would like you to know that you will hear today, it is really from something that I've learned on the academic level, going and exploring MIT knowledge and education for leaders, IT leaders, marketing leaders, C-level leaders, right? For how do they make a decision for the right AI, and the second part of me is legal operations, understanding how the corporate legal operation works and what the struggle and what the achievements and what the advantage.
I love that you were attracted to legal operations without having a law degree. I always admire people who have courage to enter this somewhat intimidating place, and actually start building and operating, without having a law degree. I think it takes a lot of courage, so I'm gonna acknowledge that fact. But I'm always curious about those people. Why bring upon yourself, a life that could have been easier, maybe.
That's interesting that you're saying that. And a lot of people asking me that. And my answer going to be, it's not despite, but it is because I consider myself a very curious person, not just in the area that I'm working, but also, I'm curious about the world. And I think if there's one thing that I can really say to you that bring me joy for my work is working in an environment when I'm surrounded by intelligent, intellectual individuals. And I think this is a joy. It really is, right? Because, it has not come without the struggle. All good things in love, in life comes with a struggle. But I really think working with such a advanced intellectual industry And with the turn is most of them in a corporate already, coming with not just with the academical degree, but they have this background and amazing experience. It is my pleasure. It is my pleasure, and I'm very happy with the choice.
Well, if you want intellectual conversation, law is definitely should be a destination. You and I had a couple of conversations, Jordan, and you mentioned that at some point the AI and its importance will sort of start staring right back at you, and you had to do it. Tell me more about it. Tell me how you got to the point that you need to get on top of this, educate yourself. What was the moment, or what were the series of events that led to where we are today?
Thank you for asking that. I really think this is a root question, not just for me, but for the conversation and for the understanding of the industry. So I always feel like in every area in my life, when things starting to be too exciting, you have to really look back and see where you're coming from, right? As I was growing up, my parents always told me, you remember where you're coming from. And I always imply this idea where you're coming from, not only to me personally, right, but also to my professional journey. And I would like to say that about 3 years ago, I felt like if I got a cent for every company that knocking on my door as someone who's leading legal operations and saying, we want to sell this. Lucas, we have such an amazing AI platform. We have this, we have that. And then I said, okay, so we have something new that it's not just Siri, that I'm talking to, hey, Siri, call my husband, or hey, Siri, do this, hey, Siri, do that. But it's a real thing that happening in my industry, right, that I consider myself leading legal operations for Vonage. So it struck me that, okay, so I have to educate myself, as we all as professionals, right? We go into school, right? We go into university and we gain a degree. And then from that point and going on, it's our responsibility to educate ourselves. And that is why I so much appreciate the platform that you've created so successfully, Olga. And this is where about 3 years ago I recognized that this pattern is going on, and I understood that I need more armor to decide what is good, what is not, when I should advise to the legal team to say no to something and to take some decisions. But then when you're taking some decisions, you need a perspective. So this is about a year ago. I decided actively to go and to MIT school, who's one of the not the best schools for AI, but they specifically in-house developing a lot of tools, AI power, when they have agreements with the New York City to develop some operations for them. Let me just tell that on a very high level. And on the other hand, I felt that I definitely should be a source of information for a legal department to make a decision. So this is where I decided to go and educate myself with MIT, and I think it brought me a huge perspective.
So tell me, it sounds like you took a class at MIT. Tell me, was it a class or was it a series of classes?
This is a class. I mean, it was in the middle of pandemic, so
and it was online. Great.
Exactly. I mean, I was dying, to go there and get a room, and spend there a couple of weeks. But this is
and touch the walls of MIT.
I know. It's a dream. It is a dream. It's a beautiful place, beyond everything. But I think this is the magic of a place, When you go to the academy, right? When you go to the university, all this environment and all those professionals and professors who are standing in front of you, and they spend all their life dealing with this question of how and where and amazing. I invite all of you guys who's interested. You don't need to have, a mathematical background or engineering background. Just go there. I've met a huge amount of IT leaders, CFOs, COOs who coming to these classes to understand how do they operate in the modern world in a good way, right? In a modern world that's changing so quickly, right? So you need to have tools, and these tools that you're not necessarily, gaining, but just hearing some sales speech, with all due respect, right? Those are important as well to keep up, but going and get some, firm ground understanding. What are we dealing with?
Yeah, yeah. It's interesting. Marco made an observation about who's responsible for the culture we have in legal and maybe law schools. Yeah, maybe law schools. Yeah, that's one explanation. So perhaps we should attract more people like Jordan who are contributing and excited and have not had an opportunity of their minds poisoned by law school. Um, so you took the class. What did you learn in that class? What was the name of it, and what did you learn?
Yeah, it's called AI Business Implications. Fascinating. Again, I invite all of you, just your comment. I have to reflect. So I know that Harvard Law School started to do podcasts for their students with leaders of legal operations. I invite all of you who are interested, and this understanding of Harvard School as being, one of the leaders in our law school and education in general, understanding that there is something that it cannot be that the law student graduate from law school and they do not know what is out there. What is the last changes that are happening? So legal operations definitely should be, and it is starting to be as part of the classic education. Hopefully, we will see more and more school. So this is a side note. And
do you know the name of the Harvard Law podcast that you mentioned?
I will be glad. I will be glad to. This is a very good friend of mine. This is pretty new, so I'm more than happy to share. And then I think what I really would like to share with you in this limited time that we have is really the gems that I've learned and made me, have this a little bit crystallized perspective on the industry. And this is, I'm going back and saying, let's take a look where we're coming from. And the coming from, it is realizing that everything that relates to AI, artificial intelligence, firstly, it's very hard to define. Let's start with that fact. Very hard to define, very hard. And this is because of the complexity and different flavors of it. And that is why, just for the purposes of our conversation, I really want us to stick to a very simple definition of it. Which will be, machines acting in a ways that seems intelligent. I feel like, it's very simple to remember. And this is where you're getting the sense where machines are not acting just, whatever they plan to do, but they're acting to mimic humans. This is what they do, right? So just for the purposes of our discussion. And then, I would like to start and say that all this huge, creature of AI, it's all start in 1950s. It's all 1950s when the English mathematician, his name is Alan Turing. And by the way, there was a extraordinary movie I think on Netflix. It's called the Imitation Games.
It's a good one.
This is the guy. The movie. I mean, if you haven't seen, spend an hour to watch it. So this guy. By the way, right? It all happens during the World War II, under the oppression of Germans sending coded messages from one way to another, and British are not able. British and the Americans are not able to confront them. And this is where Alan Turing coming with the idea, maybe it's only machine who can confront the machines, right? So he's coming with this extraordinary idea, which is very innovative at that time. And even today, I would like to say, he says, he started to talk about intelligent systems, right? And which is, I mean, who can think about such a thing? Intelligent system. I mean, just two words that not coming together. And what he did, because it was so difficult to define what it is, right? So he started by eliminating. He started by saying why we should consider it as a serious area for research and then mathematicians to dive into this. And this was the start of it. Right, and then later on in the 60s, there was some waves going up and down with AI. Just remember that AI is an industry. It struck me actually that AI is an industry. It's a heavily invested industry. It's a lot of money going in this industry, right? It didn't happen in one day. But it's important to understand that AI, it is a huge development that universities, companies like Tesla, right, running or space, all the space area, United States investing in. For legal, it is really, if I may say, just really implication. It's kind of something, the huge basis that exists, and it keeps developing itself, right? And legal AI, right, or you can hear about, or marketing AI, or procurement, or whatever it is, most of them, it is just kind of something that sits on top of the existing technology. So one thing that struck me during my learning process is understanding that AI, the technology, is consistent, but there's different flavors to it, right? There is a picture recognition that mostly companies like Tesla are dealing with. It's less relevant kind of to legal industry. More relevant will be natural language processing, right? When you expect machines to scan the data and understand what's written, right? Not obvious, sounds simple for us humans, but it is not. And it's also some flavor like problem reduction, right? When you have some complicated problem, and then you make it simpler and simpler and simpler until it's something that you can really simply deal with, right? And even ring fence into some rules, right? So let me tell you that I was thinking, for legal industry, it's pretty new, right? I mean, it is fairly new. And we're not really trusting it, right? Like legal industry, it's an industry that exists since ancient Greece, I would like to say. So why would we, legal industry, trust something new? Maybe it will just, go away. But interestingly, that
well, that's the thing about technology. Sometimes it's persistent. It doesn't go away.
You see, so. I think for me it was a good comparison. Take a look at some industry that not necessarily legal, right? Too close to home, but go, let's say, for a medical industry. So those guys, I can compare them to a legal industry, right? Again, very highly trained humans. I apologize for calling you humans, but it's just very inclusive. So very highly trained humans, very complicated problems in terms of, complex analysis that doctors need to go through in order to take a decision. So if we look into this industry, so interestingly enough, this industry was one of the early adopters of the AI, and that is fascinating in my mind. So it started interestingly in mid 70s when there was a developer who invented the program that called MICIN. That this program was actually were able to rule based something. And what I mean is it was by crunching a big amount of data, right? Literature, for example, right? The student will go to university and learn something. So technology is very good in crunching big amounts of data. And then create some expertise by collecting rules, right? So if I'm just simply saying, right, if I'm coming to a doctor and I say, I have a running nose and I have a fever and I have this and I have that. So in putting this into machine simply can say, Jordan, you have COVID, for example. Just I don't, but let's say, right. And this is where medical industry was smart enough, right, and curious enough to see where machines can take the first review, right, in legal language, first diagnosing phase, right, when the physician will come in and say, okay, this is what machine suggests. Let's take a look. So it basically saves you one step. And this is, I think, was an amazing thing. And it exists up until this day. There is IBA technology that calls Watson. And it is implemented and heavily used. I invite you to go and check on this. This is where machines are again crunching a huge amount of data and literature on specific areas. And that it even can take, the MRI screen, for example, and make suggestion. This is what it's all about. You're making a suggestion, and this fact, just for existing of this expertise, made me so curious about legal industry, because I can see the parallel. Can you?
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. And I like that you saw the parallel of how it works outside of legal and how it should be part of it, and went proactively educated yourself about it. As you've done it, and you return back to your legal department, leading the operations function. Where are you in your AI journey in your day-to-day life, your professional life?
I mean, this is exactly the perfect timing to take it into what do you actually do? What do you do with this all information? I mean, learning and understanding what the different flavors of AI, and then you're coming home, you do your day job, and you've asked questions, and this is where I found that extremely important for legal leaders to have this conversation, right? Before you go in and you make a decisions, right? What kind of workflow do you want to have, right? To streamline the agreements. What type of contract management platform would you like to have, and what type of AI, and how do you do that? So before you even go this direction, the first and important question that in my mind, seasoned legal leader has to ask is what is the difference, right? So think about the staffing, right? Think about the staffing. So when you bring in you want to bring new attorneys. So you say, okay, I have this area is covered, so I'm looking for someone who's specializing at something, right? So when you're thinking about technology, think exactly like that. Exactly like that. What this technology is specializing at, right? What is all about? I mean, it can cost you like a good, legal aid or more, right? If you like it. So what it brings? I mean, what it brings to the table that we don't have. And this is the crucial moment was for me. It may sound simple, but it is a crucial understanding of leaders saying we are humans, very good at certain things, and at some things we're not. Right? Just recognizing what we are and how do we run. And for every leader, for everyone who managed a team, it will be very transparent what I'm talking about. It is when you're saying we humans have certain limitations, right? So if you're asking for someone to do due diligence, and you have a certain team, let's say 5 people, you understand what the time implication that it will take, right? So we know that we human, we may need time, right, to crunch the data. And this is our minus because it takes us time. So the way we observe information, right? Observe and learn, it takes time, right? It is different with machines. So this is what machines can bring to your table, right? My sense is that in corporates, we have so much data, so much contracts, that are just, running each day, that I would like to say 20 years ago, it was the amount of agreements that legal department created in a year. Right. I apologize if I'm exaggerating, but
in the ballpark, plus minus,
Yeah, exactly.
maybe.
So think about the fact that this is not a machine. Just think about this, that this is some capability that you're missing in legal department. And this is the capability of machine to crunch the data very fast. If you train it right, if you treat it nice, right, it will bring you the something that you don't have, right? The humans cannot bring you. So this is number one. And then number two, the other thing is fascinating. I mean, very simple, but it does not sleep. It does not rest. So it's the availability of it, right? For every corporate that will work, across the globe, it's very difficult, especially for attorneys. You're working on this, some urgent deals that coming. That's, it's not really a big deal for a legal attorney, but it is urgent for sales, and this pressure, end of the quarter, end of the year, end of the month, a huge deal that has to be closed, and you realize that you don't really need an attorney for this. I mean, it's good enough to have a machine or whatever process to process it, but you need some check and balances. So it's non-complicated issues that can be handled. And on a good side, there is no time zones for it, right? So this, in my mind, two huge advantages that machine, especially AI machines that can do what you program them to do, have versus the legal team. And I think this is a crucial moment to understand. This is not just additional piece of technology that you're gaining. This is a boost to your legal team. I mean, you know that, right? You know that. I mean, you go to law school, you learn how to analyze, how to do all these complex things, and then you come into legal department, corporate. I mean, not picking on corporate, right? But then you need to deal with stuff that, you don't want to deal with them. And just simply because the technology is not there. So let's give this way technology to for us humans, for legal attorneys, for legal counsels, highly trained to do the complex things, to do what you trained to do, right? To do the fascinating analysis and report to board and say, this is the analysis. And then kind of no one knows who helped you to do that. Just no one knows. But this is what I'm thinking. This is what the machines bring into the table. This is what they do.
Yeah, very fascinating. So how do you use it today? Where do you utilize AI, ML in your operations of your legal department?
So back to the ground. I would say that the most wouldn't say the appropriate probably will be the right expression, but may I say the most common, right? The most common practice is bringing on board a contract management tool, AI powered, or workflow tool. That sometimes they can come together. The third gem is very popular. I think it's still in the very early ages, and this is where you can do the first review of simple agreements, such as NDA, for example, right? So those are three areas where machine learning, and specifically natural language processing, NLP. Just remember that NLP is one of the flavors of machine learning, right? Machine learning may have, again, Tesla is a machine learning, right? And going to Mars is a machine learning. But we're specifically interested in the system and legal operations. We're specifically interested in a system that able to take the data, digitalize data, right, and make it smart. And this is where, you take all the files, you screen them nicely, and you put them into the machine. And this machine, you want this machine, contract management tool, you want this machine with a very low training, right? Understand what are the provisions on this of this contracts. So ideally, right, the goal, the ultimate goal, going to be you go to the machine and you say, "Hey, show me all my agreements that will show you this provision, that they have this provision, right? Go to the all agreements that I have in corporate. I mean, we've mentioned we have some, right? We have some, and then go to this and just tell me in a minute how many agreements do I have with force majeure? I mean, for very advanced one, it will take, I mean, a couple of days, right? A day, if you really have kind of a huge knowledge. And for machine, it's very easy. It is very easy thing to do, right? Especially those contract management tools that are coming and customized already in the thinking, right? And thinking to support legal attorneys. This is the type of customer management, contract management tool that you would like to buy. Now,
very, very helpful. Let's maybe focus a little bit on the, we have a few more questions. We're almost at the end. I'm going to make sure we talk a little bit about industry.
please.
Things like, where do you think we're going, sort of industry-wise? And I think that's kind of where you identified the three opportunities and the increasing power of this technology. Where do you think we're going? Question one. Question two, how do we increase adoption?
So the truth is that we don't really know where we're going. And I'm saying that with all the respect, right? With all respect, the issue is that remember that AI technology, it is really not about legal, right? It's not about legal. It's not about any other industry. It is really about very massive investment from companies like IBM, Google, Facebook, and you name them, and government who want to develop this technology and this ability. Any other industry, right, like legal, for example, it's just supplemental. So we enjoy for whatever exists, right, and we hope that the current technologies will develop it the way that we as a customer would like to buy it, right? But I think the truth is that no one knows where it goes because there is no plan. Right? It's not like we have 5-year plan or 7-year plan. We don't really know, but we know it's moving forward. I mean, clearly the world changed since 2010 when, you started to talk to Siri and talk to your phone. I mean, we all recognize that. But how the world will be changing, we still do not know. What we do know, and this is what's important for legal leaders and for corporates specifically, I think, for the decision making in this environment that you don't really know where it goes, is really going back to the basics and saying we understand as legal industry, we understand in order to make it useful and perfect for our needs, we need two components. And always remember that we need two components. We need a human and we need a technology. So what I do envisage, to your question, Oliver, is that I do not envisage less legal aids that you will need to bring on board to support your legal team. I do not envisage less legal attorneys that we will need to bring, right, or pay them less, right? I do not envisage this. I do envisage that our legal teams, corporate legal teams, will go forward in terms of how precise are we, in terms what paralegals and legal aids job gonna be, description of work, right? It will drastically move from being I have to be careful now what I'm saying, right, when recording. So from being support to, right, but becoming much more, because those aids, they will bring support, massive support, to training those systems with their understanding of the business, with their understanding of legal industry. So I think I do envisage very exciting future for all across the board legal aids, for not just legal aids, I'm thinking about this now, for all deal desks, right? Deal desks, sales operations, business operations, all the people who supports the life cycle of the contract. So this is what I really think where the efficiency is coming from, and this is where I do think the legal leaders can go and say, we can make a plan for 5 years, for 3 years, showing you how we're running more contracts in less time, how we able to move from day one to new sanctions by analyzing who are the partners that we need to deal with in a very focused way. So I do think that with the technology, we will become very, very sharp. And this is something that every modern legal department, in my mind, has to consider, remembering that machines, they're only machines, right? They're not very good without humans in the purposes of legal department, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Humans are here to stay for a while. Definitely in our lifetime. We will be just adding more value, and with better tools, and that's a beautiful thing. We have come to the end. I've thoroughly enjoyed this conversation. This has been wonderful, and thank you for coming to the show. What I'm going to ask you is to, one, say goodbye, and two, maybe give us, kind of prediction of a future and what we can do today to be ready for it. Like, what is the one thing I can do to be ready for that AI, NLP full future where I can be a ninja in my legal department doing things better than before?
I so much appreciate this question, and I'm saying that not just to be polite, but because I really would like everyone who's hearing this podcast will take exactly this message. And I think, it's baby steps. If there's one thing that I've learned moving to United States, is baby steps. And the baby step will be saying to ourselves, okay, if there's one thing that I would like to take to my toolkit, right, and say, how do I build a better legal department for future to come? I would like to say one thing: make consistent decisions. Make consistent decisions in terms of technology. Make consistent decisions in terms of where do you want to drive. Start with a simple thing, right? Start with a simple thing, making sure that you have your data digitalized. I mean, it's good to have, paper copy and all of that, but it has to be digitalized, because when the right technology is trained, right, it has to have something to work with. And as we, legal department, we will make sure that our contracts are running digitally, right? They all have a digital copy. I think this is a great start. It sounds simple for most corporates. It is not so simple, but I think this is a start. And from that point on, you thinking, how do you make every agreement that you're releasing from legal department? How do you make it digital copy? Not by screening, but doing the circle. How do you streamline it, right? And technology will meet you. Technology will meet you in this journey. You will find the right technology, right? But you have to start with your basis, with your foundation. The foundation is going to be making sure that your agreements are smart data that you can use, and you will be a star. I mean, I have no doubt. I mean, just the fact, that I always have this feeling that finance, they're cool guys. I absolutely oppose to this.
Did you say finance is the cool guys?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Finance. I mean, absolutely. I mean, I'm supposed.
I don't know. I think the center of universe is legal. In my world, the center of universe is legal.
You see, but this is all the conversation about who's pulling the strings, right? I apologize for such a simple language, but this is all about who's pulling the string, who's holding the data. And the only department who is holding the data is legal department, because we're in charge of contracts, and this is where it is. This is where it is.
There's a lot of data that lives in contracts.
There you go.
Very data full experience. I can tell you all about it. But let's make sure we don't start another topic, because this was a wonderful conversation about AI. Thank you for giving the background. Thank you for giving us a takeaway. Thank you so much, Jordan, for joining and having this conversation. I thoroughly enjoyed it and learned a lot from you. We have had a very, very active audience with suggestions and comments and speaking about various things. So definitely check that out. As I said before, this is a place where I talk to in-house leaders. Lawyers are not doing exciting stuff. If you know somebody who can contribute to conversation about career, education, substantive knowledge, or a hobby that an in-house professional may have, definitely let me know. I would like to include this person on this podcast to make sure that we have the conversation and learn from one another. Thank you so much for joining. See you next time. Bye, everyone.